Have you ever wished you could silence the noise in your head, not by running away from life, but by finally being at peace right in the middle of it? What if I told you there are four simple Buddhist teachings that can do exactly that, and they transform my mind in just 1 week? This isn't some lofty philosophy you read once and forget. These are lessons I lived, breathed, and tested in the messiness of daily life, through mornings of anxiety, unexpected challenges, and quiet, soul-changing moments. Today I want to share these four teachings with you, not as rules, but as gentle companions you can carry into your own life. They are practical, they are deeply human, and they might just be the bridge between the restless mind you have today and the stillness you've been longing for. So stay with me until the end, because the last insight is something I wish I had known years ago, and it may shift the way you see not only your mind, but your entire life. When I first began this journey, I didn't expect much. I'd read about Buddhist wisdom before, but it always felt like something meant for monks on distant mountaintops, not for someone trying to navigate emails, bills, and relationships. But I was wrong. In just 7 days practicing these four teachings, detachment, acceptance, compassion, and mindfulness, my mind went from tangled and restless to spacious and calm. And here's the thing, I didn't escape my life. I learned how to live it differently. You'll hear personal stories, the small daily rituals that made the difference, and how each teaching met me in moments I didn't even know I needed them. Like the morning I practiced detachment and for the first time, let go of controlling how the day should go and found beauty in how it actually unfolded. Or the rainy afternoon when acceptance turned frustration into one of the most restful days I've ever had. These teachings aren't about changing who you are. They're about removing the noise that hides who you truly are. If you've been searching for inner peace, for a mind that feels clear instead of crowded, I invite you to walk with me through these next minutes. Take what resonates, leave the rest, but keep your heart open, because sometimes the quietest truths are the ones that change us the most. And now we arrive at the first teaching in today's journey, letting go, the art of holding lightly. For much of my life, I clung to everything as if my happiness depended on it. Relationships that no longer brought joy, plans that had long fallen apart, even the way I wanted my morning coffee to taste. My grip was tight, not because I was greedy, but because I was afraid. Afraid that without control, life would somehow slip away from me. But the truth is, the tighter you hold water in your hands, the faster it slips through your fingers. Letting go, in the Buddhist sense, isn't about caring less. It's about caring without clutching. It's the difference between holding a bird gently in your hands and squeezing it so tightly you harm what you love. When I first tried practicing detachment, I thought it meant abandoning my responsibilities or becoming indifferent. But what I discovered was the opposite. It meant showing up fully without demanding that life bend to my will. I began with a simple breathing ritual each morning. I would close my eyes, inhale deeply, and notice what I was gripping most tightly that day. Maybe it was a conversation I wanted to go a certain way. Maybe it was the fear of something going wrong. Then as I exhaled, I imagined releasing it, like opening my palm and letting the wind take it. The first days were not easy. My chest felt heavy. My mind whispered, "What if you lose everything?" But after 3 days, something shifted. It felt as if I had taken a backpack full of stones off my shoulders. Space opened up in my mind, and peace began to seep in. One day, this practice was tested in an unexpected way. I was having coffee with a friend whose political views were completely opposite to mine. The old me would have jumped in to correct them, to prove my point, but instead I simply listened. I let their words come and go like waves, without trying to dam the river. And something beautiful happened. Instead of drifting apart, we found a deeper connection in our shared humanity. Letting go taught me this. When you stop wrestling with life, you start dancing with it. You react less, and you respond more. You stop wasting energy on trying to control what is beyond you, and you have more to give to what's right in front of you. If you want to begin this journey, start small. Let go of something that doesn't threaten your sense of safety. Maybe it's your impatience in traffic. Maybe it's your need for your coffee to be exactly the way you like it. Practice noticing the moment frustration arises. Take a deep breath and open your mental fist. And over time, you may discover what I did. The less you grip, the more life can place in your hands. When I began to let go, life started to feel lighter, as if the weight I'd been dragging for years had finally eased. But letting go was only the first step. Because even when your hands are open, life will still place things in them you didn't ask for. Storms you didn't expect, endings you didn't want, and emotions you wish you could ignore. That's when the second teaching revealed itself. Acceptance, not the passive, resigned kind that whispers, "There's nothing I can do," but the grounded, courageous acceptance that says, "This is what's here, this is what's true, and I will meet it with open eyes." For most of my life, I fought against anything I didn't like: uncomfortable emotions, unwanted situations, harsh realities. I thought resistance would protect me, like a shield. But really, it was more like quicksand. The harder I fought, the deeper I sank. Then one week, I decided to try something radical, to stop fighting and start meeting life as it was. Every day, I practiced noticing whatever emotion arose, without judgment. If anxiety showed up, I didn't slam the door in its face. I simply said, "I see you. You're here." It felt strange, even wrong at first, like I was letting the bad win. But by the fourth day, something shifted. The emotions moved through me faster, like clouds passing across the sky, instead of hanging over me like a storm that never ends. I remember one morning when heavy rain ruined my plans for an outdoor event I'd been looking forward to all week. My first instinct was frustration. This wasn't how the day was supposed to go. But I paused, took a breath, and whispered inwardly, "It's raining." That is reality. And with that small act of acceptance, the day transformed. I brewed tea, curled up with a book I'd been neglecting, and had one of the most peaceful afternoons in months. Acceptance also met me in far deeper waters, in the ending of a relationship I had been holding on to for far too long. For months, I replayed conversations, imagined different endings, resisted the truth. Through daily meditation focused on acceptance, I finally let myself say, "This happened. I don't have to like it, but I can stop pretending it didn't." And in that moment, it felt like putting down a heavy backpack I'd been carrying for miles. The sadness was still there, but now it was a sadness I could hold without it crushing me. What I learned is that acceptance is not giving up. It's starting from the ground of truth, so you can take your next step with clarity instead of confusion. When we stop using our energy to fight reality, we free that energy to create, to heal, to love. If you want to begin, start small. The next time a difficult emotion rises, irritation in traffic, disappointment when plans change, pause and name it. This is frustration. It's here right now. Don't rush to fix it or push it away. Let it be for a moment and notice what happens. Because sometimes the most powerful change comes not from changing the world around you, but from softening the way you meet it. Learning to accept life as it is brought me a deep sense of peace, but it also revealed something else. Peace is fragile if the heart is still hard. Acceptance can quiet the storm, but compassion is what softens the ground it falls upon. Without compassion, we risk turning acceptance into a cold resignation. With it, our inner world becomes warmer, gentler, more alive. And that brings us to the third teaching. Compassion, the soft power that transforms. For a long time, I believed compassion was simply about doing nice things for others, giving a little extra change to someone in need, offering help when asked, speaking politely. It felt like an outward gesture, something I could tick off a list. But one week of intentional practice turned that belief inside out. I discovered that compassion isn't just something we do, it's something we are, and it has to start from within. I began with self-compassion, which surprisingly was harder than being kind to strangers. Each morning, I'd place my hand over my heart and say, "May I be kind to myself today?" At first, it felt awkward, almost silly, but then I started to notice my inner voice, sharp, critical, unforgiving. I realized I was speaking to myself in ways I'd never speak to someone I loved. That was a wake-up call. One day I made a mistake at work, something small but enough to trigger my usual spiral of self-criticism. Normally, I would replay the error over and over, carrying the shame for days. But this time, I took a breath and asked myself, how can I be gentle with myself right now? That single question interrupted the cycle. I addressed the mistake with clarity, fixed what needed fixing, and moved on. No emotional bruises, no mental punishment. The second part of my practice was extending compassion outward. Every day I did a short loving kindness meditation, sending good wishes first to myself, then to people I loved, then to those I barely knew, and finally, and the hardest part, to people I had conflicts with. One experience still stands out. There was someone who had hurt me deeply in the past. For years, I carried the weight of resentment like a stone in my chest. Through compassion practice, I didn't excuse their behavior, but I began to imagine the pain that might have driven it. Slowly, the sharp edges of my anger softened. I wasn't carrying that stone anymore. My heart felt lighter, more spacious. The changes surprised me. My anxiety levels dropped. My sleep improved. Conversations felt more genuine. Even my patience in small daily moments, standing in line, dealing with delays, expanded without effort. Compassion had begun to rewire how I experienced the world. Here's the thing. Compassion is a practice that multiplies. The more you give, the more you seem to have. But it's not about grand gestures. Sometimes it's as simple as pausing before speaking or silently wishing well for the stranger who just cut you off in traffic. If you want to begin, start with yourself. Notice your inner dialogue. Ask, would I say this to a friend? If not, change the tone. Then let that gentleness spill over to others. Not because they always deserve it, but because you deserve the peace that comes with a kind heart. Because in the end, compassion isn't weakness. It's a quiet strength, the kind that can melt walls, heal old wounds, and make even the heaviest days feel lighter. When compassion begins to flow naturally, you start to feel lighter, as if your inner walls have softened and the world's sharp edges can't cut as deeply. But there's still one more teaching that ties all of this together, the thread that weaves through letting go, acceptance, and compassion. Without it, these teachings remain beautiful ideas that fade in the rush of everyday life. With it, they become living, breathing parts of you. And that brings us to the fourth teaching, mindfulness, coming home to the present moment. Mindfulness is not just a technique, it's the quiet art of coming home, again and again, to where life is actually happening, right here, right now. In Buddhist tradition, mindfulness is the foundation. It's what allows the mind to return from the endless wandering into regrets of the past or worries about the future, back to the vivid simplicity of this moment. When I began practicing mindfulness, I was surprised at how often my mind was somewhere else entirely. Even while doing simple things, washing dishes, sipping tea, walking down the street, I was usually lost in thought. My body was here, but my mind was chasing 100 different stories, so I started small. While washing dishes, I focused only on the sensation of the warm water, the weight of the bowl in my hands, the swirl of soap bubbles. I didn't judge my thoughts when they drifted. I simply noticed them and returned to the water. That's when I realized mindfulness isn't about forcing the mind to be still. It's about gently inviting it back over and over, like calling a friend to come sit beside you. One morning I practiced mindful breathing. Inhale, noticing the cool air entering. Exhale, feeling the warmth leave. That's all. No chasing, no fixing, no striving. And in those few minutes, my mind began to unclench. The constant background hum of tension eased. The more I practiced, the more I noticed emotions the moment they appeared. Frustration in traffic? I could see it as it arose instead of reacting on autopilot. Anxiety before a meeting? I could feel it in my body, the tight shoulders, the quickened breath, and soften into it instead of letting it control me. Mindfulness began to change not just how I felt, but how I lived. I started tasting my food instead of eating on autopilot. I heard the sound of rain instead of letting it fade into the background. Even waiting in line became an opportunity, not to distract myself, but to notice the subtle play of life around me. And here's the thing. Mindfulness isn't only for calm, quiet moments. It's for the messy, noisy, difficult ones too. It's what allows you to respond with clarity instead of reacting out of habit. It's what helps you catch yourself before the harsh word slips out, before the old fear takes over? If you want to start, choose something you already do every day. Making coffee, brushing your teeth, walking to your car, and do it with full attention. Feel every movement, notice every sensation, without rushing to the next thing. Over time, mindfulness turns the ordinary into something sacred. A breath becomes a doorway. A sip of tea becomes a meditation. The present moment stops being something you pass through on your way somewhere else and becomes the place where your life truly lives. Because in the end, mindfulness is simply this: remembering to be here and realizing that here is enough. Mindfulness isn't just something you practice on a meditation cushion. Its true beauty is how it seeps into the rest of your life, shaping the way you speak, listen, and even breathe. And that's when the real magic happens. When letting go, acceptance, compassion, and mindfulness stop being things you do and start becoming how you live. So how do you weave these 4 teachings into the fabric of your everyday life? The first step is structure. Wisdom without a container tends to spill away. That's why I created a simple weekly rhythm: 20 minutes of meditation every morning, with each day dedicated to one teaching. On Mondays and Thursdays, I practice letting go, breathing in to notice what I'm holding too tightly, breathing out to release it. Tuesdays and Fridays are for acceptance, welcoming whatever arises in my thoughts, emotions, or body without judgment. Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays belong to compassion, starting with myself and then radiating outward. And mindfulness? It's woven through them all, the silent thread that holds the week together. But structure alone isn't enough. We're forgetful creatures, easily pulled back into old habits. That's where small reminders come in. I carry a smooth pebble in my pocket for letting go. When I feel it, I remember. Loosen your grip. I wear a simple bracelet for acceptance. Each time I see it, I pause and ask, can I make peace with this moment? For compassion, I keep a small paper heart on my desk, nudging me to speak and act with kindness. At night, I reflect. I take out my journal and write about where I succeeded and where I stumbled. Some days I feel proud of how I paused before reacting in traffic. Other days I see how quickly I slip back into old patterns. But here's the thing: it's not about perfection. It's about noticing, learning, and beginning again. The changes have been undeniable. My anxiety has softened, like a knot slowly loosening. I react less out of habit and more from clarity. There's a steadiness in my days even when life throws its usual curveballs. And perhaps most surprising, the more I live these teachings, the more I see them reflected back at me. My conversations feel deeper. My relationships feel warmer. Even strangers seem to sense the shift. Living the 4 teachings isn't about creating a life without problems. It's about meeting whatever comes, joy or sorrow, calm or chaos, with a heart that is steady, open, and free. And over time, the line between practice and life fades until they are one and the same. Because the truth is, peace is not something you visit for 20 minutes in the morning. It's something you carry with you, wherever you go. You don't have to change your religion or adopt any at all to walk this path. These teachings belong to no one, and yet they are for everyone. They work quietly, like water shaping stone, not overnight, but with a steady, patient touch that changes you from the inside out. The longer you practice, the more you notice their roots growing in you. Letting go feels natural. Acceptance comes without struggle. Compassion flows without effort. Mindfulness becomes the air you breathe. And one day, without even realizing it, you find yourself fully here, present, unshaken, and deeply at peace with the life in front of you. Remember, the goal is not perfection, it's progress, one gentle step at a time. Every breath, every choice is a chance to begin again. So here's my invitation. Choose just one teaching and live it for a week. Watch how it changes not only your mind, but the way the world meets you. Then come back and share your story in the comments. Your journey might be the light someone else needs to take their first step. Because the quieter your mind becomes, the more clearly you can hear the wisdom that's been there all along, waiting for you to listen.